So, Emily, what I do is I have conversations with parents. I spark conversations with parents.
Yes.
And the intention is to have parents really talk to their children about sex and sexuality at home.
Yes.
So I do this through an online space called Teen Talk Table. So through online workshops, through the school setups. I even talk to the teens themselves.
Yes.
But my main agenda is to talk to the parents, because sometimes, even if I talk to the teens, the parents, they'll go back home to the parents who is not informed or is shying away from the topic.
Yes.
So they'll go, the children go back to their cocoon. So the intention of what I do is to make parents continue the conversations at home.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let me just get straight into it. Just as the topic says, how and when to talk to your kids about sex. Now I know some people who have preteens, the people who have preschoolers, toddlers, grade schoolers. At what stage would you advise, as a sex education parent coach, that we should start talking to sex about our children? Because we had we touched on this conversation for about a few minutes sometime last week, and I saw some people coming after trying to troll us. No, you cannot be telling children such things. You remember the comments? And today we have an expert. I hope you're plugging in and you're listening, because let us get it from you.
Yeah.
When do you think we should do it, and how should we do it? At what stage? And I want you to give us in detail. Stage watoto wakina karigo, toddlers, middle schoolers, grade schoolers,
teenagers, the young adults.
Advise us how we're going to get into it.
Great question, Barbara. And before I answer that, let me take the people back to what is sex education.
Yes.
Because today, even when I posted, somebody was like, made a very funny comment. So I was like, why are you making that comment?
Welcome to our world.
So when you say sex, people imagine the intercourse.
Yes.
Intercourse. But when you're having conversations with children, we are not starting the conversation of intercourse. In fact, the rule of the thumb is any child who hasn't understood reproduction should not be having conversations about intercourse.
Yes.
So it means you're jumping the gun.
Okay.
So sex education basically encompasses the whole aspect of sex itself and the social aspect. So when you're, as a social being, who are you? There's the body. You have your body yourself. So there's the aspect of body awareness and body autonomy. That is one aspect of it. You also have thoughts and feelings, which make up still part of those sex, because they affect your sexual life.
Yes.
Then you have your family and the relationship around you and love. So what does that mean? That means that is still part of the sex education itself.
Yes.
So all those, so basically sex education includes body autonomy, body awareness, values, dignity, respect, healthy relationships, because if you don't have all this, what happens? The violence you see from trickling from early ages up to now, even men, the issue of consent that we speak a lot about.
It goes way back.
It goes way back to relationship. So that
from.
is what sex education is itself, because it's about everything that will affect you as a sexual being.
Yes.
So I want parents to move away from the cocoon of the intercourse.
Or the intimacy part
Or
of
the
it.
intimacy. And then let us look about the aspects that surround a human being as a sexual being.
Yes.
That is what makes sex education.
Okay.
Wow.
So it is not the intercourse itself.
So
when you think about it like that, then it means the conversation actually starts the day your child is born.
Okay.
Because, look at it this way, a child learns love, friendship, relationship from what age? Very early
young
ages.
Yeah.
I think even about
yes,
few months
and when
because of
when the
hugging.
conversations start, they're not sexual.
Yes.
They're normal interactions. You're building behavior. You're building a character. So that is where the sex conversation starts stemming from, building of character. So when you start it at early ages, in fact, even consent, when you start at early ages, is not sexual. Talking about consent in the sexual term, you talk about it when people start having conversations on the sex itself and intimacy. So they're a bit bigger.
So in terms of children, and I like the part that you said consent, what type of consent do we talk to in terms of maybe a preschooler?
Yes. So the consent is you are teaching them that they have the right. As the lesson is themselves as a human being, they have the autonomy. So they have the right as themselves to their body to say no to something or to allow.
Beautiful.
They have the right to open the doors for people to interact with them the way they want people to interact with them.
So it's more of interaction.
So it's a way of interaction. So for instance, Barbara, if I come to your home, I want to give your child, assuming she's 3, a hug. She doesn't want. You're forcing that child to hug me. You're teaching that child that it's okay for somebody to violate their rights.
So if a child doesn't want to hug auntie so and so,
it's okay.
It's okay.
You say, maybe Ethan does not feel that I need to give you a hug right now.
Yes.
It's okay. And you repeat it. And you tell Ethan, it's okay. You can give whatever form of greeting, you want to greet. Maybe you don't want to give a hug. It's okay. So what you're teaching this child is the child has an authority. They can say no.
So that only applies to things that are within contact or consensual to them.
Yes, you see, and the lessons also. Okay, let's take it this way. So you're starting with the lesson. The basic lesson that we start with, we say it's about body awareness and body positivity and concepts. That's the area we start with. Yes. So for example, you're teaching your child, your body is yours. Nobody's supposed to touch it.
Yes.
So what does that mean? As the child grows, they are supposed to learn, for example, my privacy, my body is mine. So it reaches an age where your child should know, even bathing. And we sometimes we overdo it. We allow our nannies to bathe our children till 8 years of age, which is wrong.
Which is wrong. I also
because what you're teaching that that child does not have privacy. Their body is not theirs.
Yes.
So your child should know that themselves, there's a privacy themselves. People should not touch them. And even instances where you say maybe a doctor can touch you when this is happening in their room. So you're trying. You're teaching this child they own their body and safety.
Yes.
As a tool from the word go, from the right ages of when they're still toddlers. You're teaching that child. You're teaching that child the right names of their body parts.
Okay.
For example, we rarely say, when a child says vulva or vagina, we rarely have those words. People will tell you, when you say vagina, that's a bad word. Wacha kusema tabia mbaya.
In fact, Emily,
which is tabia mbaya? Body parts is a not tabia mbaya.
I think we've been raised in a culture where we have decided to code it. And I'm going to say it because even our regulation authority and communication authority flag us when you are having conversations similar to this.
Yes.
That if today I decide to use our name and autonomy of either a male or a female, I'll get flagged.
Yeah.
You might not get flagged, you're a guest, but for me, someone somewhere will receive a letter and I will be fined.
Yeah.
So it is stemming from our society.
Exactly.
How do we get out of that? Because we've taught our children.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to know, just agreeing with what Barbara is saying, when we are speaking to our kids about our anatomy, is it okay for us to give code names, nicknames, or just name them as you've named it right now?
It's what is happening is, even if you use code names, you can say this is what the world calls it, but this is the real name. So your child lives in a place where they know in the outside world people may call it a we, a p. That's what the outside world call it, but it's also, this is the factual name.
Yes.
So we need to give them factual names.
Factual names, and this is it.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
At what age though?
From young age, even as you bathe, you name the parts. They name when they come to you. For example, they ask you, "Mommy, why am I going to the toilet different from that other person?" You can say you use this part as a boy to pee, and the girl use this part. And you're right, Barbara. It's about the way we are cultured. We are cultured around sex is shameful.
Yes,
that's it.
It's wrong.
Sex is wrong.
Bad. It's a bad
sex
thing.
is bad. Sex is awful. Which is and we learned, we grew up in that shame culture and as in we were closed in that kakuna. That is why even parents are having difficult time having the conversations, because people never had with them. Sex was thrown into that.
I even know people who are working in this institution.
Yes,
that right now this conversation is very uncomfortable for them.
It is. So it starts from the ground by unlearning.
Yes.
You see, the only way you can rewire yourself is by unlearning.
And I like that word, unlearning.
Yes,
because today's conversation has to do a lot with unlearning, guys.
Yes, it is about unlearning.
Yeah.
So you basically have to reflect first, go back to the reality and say, this is the way I was brought up, but how do I want to raise my child?
Spice.
Boundaries.
How do I tackle the age set of, let's say, 2 to 5?
Yeah.
How do I tackle 6 to 9? And how do I tackle the age sets?
So basically, the early toddler years, 0 to 5, you speak about the basics. So here your intention is having open conversations just to answer their curiosity. So you'll talk about the basics of, as we've said, consent, their body, giving them body positivity, so that they know that they are fine the way they are. The world is made of different people, and it's okay the way they are, so that they can also appreciate themselves the way they are. Boundaries, you're talking about respect, how they can say no, that it's okay for them not to want maybe people to touch them. It's okay for them not to want to play with people. It starts with those basics as you progress. So even reproduction, they may ask you, this is the age where children ask, "Mommy, where do babies come from?"
Yes, how do we answer
so
that?
You
supermarket
answer
usually is the answer.
Yes, now we are now in the age where you can't say supermarket.
Yes.
So you'll start with the basics. So for example, you say, "Mom gave birth to so and so came."
So preschoolers.
Yes, the preschooler. You can just
tell them like that.
The basic, yes, I gave birth. They can ask through which means. So you can tell some people's stomachs are cut. That is cesarean.
Yeah.
Some.
Emily, you're extra.
No, I'm not extra. It is. By the way,
I'm telling my nursery child.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the very basic.
Okay.
You're giving the basic.
So we just be open with them.
Just open conversations.
Yes.
And it's by the way.
Why do you feel?
Let me tell you.
Do you feel? Sorry to interrupt you, but why do you? Because I'm, you guys are both parents.
Yeah.
I'm a parent in the making. Why do you feel Duchess has gotten that response of, "Hey, Emily, that's a bit too extra"?
Yes.
Because I'm sure there are other parents thinking the same thing.
Yes.
But why?
Like my 3-year-old,
Yeah.
4-year-old.
Why do we feel it's too extra? And I am thinking it's not.
It's because of our shame culture. And if you remove intercourse from the conversations become so easy.
That's it.
It's because you are blinded by everything. You're blinded by sex. You're not going to tell this child I had sex with your father. No.
Yeah.
You're just going to say you came through maybe this is what are the methods of giving birth. It's either you're cut, that's a cesarean, or the baby comes from vagina.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. It's complicated because when you're talking about it, you're thinking about sex.
Yeah.
Let us remove intercourse from the conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you remove it, it becomes very easy.
Yeah.
And then as they progress, now whatever you talk about becomes even deeper. So for
the
example,
questions become even tougher.
the questions become tougher. So for example, your 6 to 9 year old, when you come to boundaries, you're not speaking about people not touching whatever parts. People should not photograph them because it's also about people taking pictures of them, people not touching them, and them also respecting the boundaries of the others. It's not about your child only. It's about your child also respecting the boundaries of other people.
Yes.
Because if they don't respect, it means it's okay for them to trash. So you're telling them that it's okay for them to trash.
Yeah.
So they will continue that behavior even in adulthood.
Yeah.
So whatever they do to themselves, they should reciprocate to the other people. So the conversations become deeper now. In terms of consent, you can even now speak about, like the rules now becomes deeper as that age of 6 to 9, they're now approaching teens. They started getting awareness on their body. Your child may now want to have the privacy when they're dressing.
Yes.
And that's okay for you to respect that as a parent.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because they're now becoming
house.
cautious of what their body is. They started noticing a few differences. So here now you start introducing a bit of the puberty conversations, because some people start even earlier, 8, 9, they've started experiencing change.
Yes.
So you start speaking about the small changes that people may see. You may see hairs because these things will come. People will see breasts starting to grow. Some people having small breasts, things like that. So you start the conversation slowly.
Yes.
And then now when you reach teenagehood, now the conversations, now this is where now you start talking about the physical change. But before you talk about reproduction, you start introducing the child to the physical change they're going to experience, whether they're experiencing it or not.
Yes.
Because when you talk to them early, also you are making this child empathize with even the others who are experiencing the change before them.
Yeah.
So they'll respect the other people's differences.
Yeah.
When they go to a class that has a child who has a breast, they don't start laughing or giggling.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah, because they know it's okay.
Yeah.
When you even the conversations on menses, we limit it to girls only, but boys should also know that girls go through menstruation, so that when they're in class and a girl has leaked, they will empathize with that girl because they know it is a natural process. When a boy voices break, the girls will not start laughing.
Yeah, and that's a big one.
Yeah, because if you're only teaching girls what girls go through and you're leaving the boys, what means our society is not girls only or boys only.
Yes.
We are both girls and boys, so we must know about each other and empathize with each other.
Yes.
So then after introducing the basics of puberty, then you now start introducing about now a bit of reproduction. When this happens, now it's in phases.
Yes.
Reproduction is, you can now, at this age you've grown, your body is changed, people can get pregnant at this age, so you start having those conversations deeply, and then as they grow, now you start having even conversations of now even the relationship, boyfriend girlfriend relationship. So it's in phases, Barbara, and you take it's not about, and remember, I want to emphasize, let's not dwell so much on the age. Let's look at our children's development.
Okay.
Because sometimes my child who is 8 years old is mature than my child who is 10 years old.
Okay.
So the way I can converse with them is slightly different from the other child. So it's also
That's
about
true.
the maturity of your child and how they can understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even as
And
you
also
speak,
the physical development?
yes.
Okay.
And when you speak about this topic and you see they don't understand, it's okay. You'll come back and repeat, because children learn through repetition.
Okay. Yes.
So it's constant repeating, even the consent and boundaries. It's constant repeating.
How many times should I repeat, for example? Because I know when it comes to matters sex education, it's very uncomfortable for some of us based on our backgrounds and where we're coming from. So for a parent who is just starting out, maybe they have a preschooler, they have another a teenager, do you advise that they do it separately? Or do you advise that they just do it communally? You know, like, this is a family, my child Karigo Babra, because they're almost peers. Or should we take your advice, as you're saying, we look at a child individually, even if they have a difference of 1 or 2 years?
You look at a child individually, because maturity plays a big deal. Like, you may have even a child who may have development issues. Maybe the age may be higher, but the way you want to have the conversation with them, with the child who is
maybe they're sibling.
They may be siblings, but the younger one may even be normal, but this other one has development issues, so they may not be able to grasp. So if they're twin and teen, they're very close, you can have together. But if the age gap is different, then you have the conversations differently. And the other thing I want to say is, Barbara, it's not about sitting down like this and we're having conversations like a lecture. It's not a lecture.
It's how?
It's a conversation. So this is the way this is the
nicest way to
do
smile? Because my daughter seems to giggle.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Let me tell you this, so Barbara. So this is the thing. You see, most of the time when a lecture happens, you either switch off if you're bored. What do you do in a lecture? I want you to picture. There are two things.
I will listen, but at some point, if it gets boring, I plug off.
You plug off.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't need lectures. We need conversations. Conversations are normal. How do they happen? They happen in the car. They happen in the shop. So for example, you're in the shop, you are seeing pads. You can start conversations about pads and periods.
So now
you are in a car, you're listening to some music that has explicit version, or I've said some nasty things about women. You can ask your child, what do you think about that? Then have the conversation on how the society.
So we need to stop saying Zimayo.
No, I like that. I like that.
People kiss. Even nowadays, you'll find cartoons have adult content.
It is very
so
scary.
when you sit down to watch those animation with those kids, you realize some even have kissing. They have all these things. Turn those into teachable moments. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about? So you make it conversation. You don't look for lectures. That is why we say the sex education should be tiny. 1,000, 1,000,000.
Yeah.
But Emily, I want to come back. Karigo, hold on. I want you to come back and tell us how best we can do it, because I've just learned a lesson here. I'm one of those parents who, when we are watching something and people start kissing on an animation, I forward.
Zima.
So I've just learned a lesson.
Or you say, close your eyes.
No, there's a time I took a pillow, I put it on her face. So yeah, I have just learned a lesson. But when we come back, I want us all to just take us through, as parents, how best we can do this.
Spice.
Today's conversation is how and when to talk to your children about sex. More importantly, it's about sex education. When we talk about sex education, majority of you end up thinking it's about reading the Constitution, intimacy, but that's not where we're coming from. Today, Emily wants to shed some light on where you look at it differently. Look at boundaries, look at consent, look at your body, the body anatomy, and how to convey it across. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. If you have a question, if you have a query, send it through, and most definitely, Emily will be answering. Hello, Spice.
Hello.
How are you, sir? What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Hasbon. I'm calling from Nairobi.
Please proceed. What's your question or query from Emily? Or for Emily, pardon me?
Now, I think, for instance, I want to talk about me when I was growing up.
Yes.
And I was never told about sex or talked about sex with my parents. I never impregnated any lady.
A nice man.
Until I got... Sorry?
A nice man.
Yeah, until I got married. Yeah? And I knew about sex when I was in Form 2. Yeah?
Yes, proceed.
Now, these things, we knew about it. We knew about sex and stuff. But it was termed as a taboo to talk about it. And that one really helped us because sex starts from the mind. The moment you start talking to a kid about sex, you are messing up this kid's mind. Because kids are curious. They will be like, hey, I'm told not to do this, not to do this, not to do that. Let me try it out. But the moment you don't talk about it, it is the same as telling your child, usifungue fridge na nisikupata unafungua fridge, that kid will go and open that fridge. Because the kid will be curious. Hii ni nini ambayo ninaambiwa? I don't go and open the fridge. So I think the sex aspect is usually mind-oriented. The moment you just eliminate it from your head, it won't bother you much. But the moment you feed it in your brain, you'll always be thinking about it.
So in your opinion, we should not have sex education questions or conversations with children? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So for you, no sex education, you're growing, let your children grow and proceed as it is.
Yes, let them proceed as it is. Watajifunza huko mbele.
Asante. Hello, Spice.
Hello.
Hi, Henry.
Hi, how are you?
Salama sana. What are your thoughts about the conversation? Did you have a question?
I have two. I have two questions. By the way, I have no question. I totally support Emily on what she says. The issue of lecturing is no. It's an issue of conversation. But I want to talk about education a little bit because it was earlier, but I couldn't get through. Education is supposed to be transformational. It's supposed to transform you. You see, when you have a chama, you can choose any riffraff to be your treasurer. But when you decide to have a SACCO, like the government could be, in that you have taxes that you're paying, serious taxes, you can no longer have leadership that doesn't know about budget, doesn't know how to look at growth, economical growth, and then we say they should not have a degree. You must have people who can actually.
Yes, you need to have an informed leader in that particular sector.
Yes, we cannot have fools in our leadership just because we think leadership is inborn. It's not inborn. Leadership is also a conversational process where you are conversed into being a leader, including all aspects of the mental status, empathy, listening, being compassionate, having a passion. You know, vision is a dream. And it cannot be a vision if in that dream you are not serving the people. Joseph had a dream that his brothers were serving him and they sold him because they thought, how can this young boy be our boss? They didn't know that he saved people from hunger with those dreams and those visions. So Emily is very right. Again, it's part of education, transforming the children into conversation that scares Karigo and the Duchess. Huh? That's cocky, Henry, again. That's
I know. We saw that. Yes, you are right that, yes, we need to have these conversations because sometimes that transformation and that awareness, if we don't have it, then we end up being ignorant.
Absolutely. But if you start as cowardly fools, then the children will get the wrong issues. Tabia mbaya, the pillow on the face. Duchess, what's wrong with you? How can you be a Duchess and you behave that way?
I've learned. Let me tell you something. Tell
me, darling.
No, Henry, the last 2 months, I've been struggling with sex education questions. I've been doing it, but I've been coding it. Then when my child came and told me, Mom, one of my friends stained, it hit me that now I need to have this conversation in deep because I've done the boundaries, I've done the body, but I'm thinking like, I had never divorced myself from the intimacy aspect. You get?
Yes. You're busy running away from intercourse, which was not part of the agenda.
Which is not part of it, because in my head, I think that is part of it. But I like what Emily has brought to the table. Yes, continue with what you're doing, but divorce yourself from that. Because you imagine someone will do that. Yeah, that will come later. But you see where I'm coming from? We were never taught.
You are coming from Kolomani, so...
I'm a bullfighter. We struggle. Thank you, darling. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. SpiceFM KE on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is where we are channeling our conversations. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. This is Geoffrey.
Proceed. Do you have a question for Emily?
First, mine just concern, and in fact, to congratulate you for bringing that coach. Because one, actually, I find it very tricky for me to sit down with my daughter, and actually, I'm more better than my wife, because the way personally I was brought, hata kutembea na msichana kwa barabara ilikuwa ni kama ni dhambi. So you find it, at least now I'm learning how to treat it, because actually I've been struggling. Hata tuko kwa nyumba, watch after news, hiyo nini sijui zaka kwa kwamba ni nini. Tu skisi unaamka unapataka tu mpaka tunasimama nafunga TV kwanza hiyo stage ipite. So I think at the end of the segment I'll just fix up, and maybe I will better improve in the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate you. Emily, I want to take you back to someone who had said that he believes that we should not have this conversation.
Yeah. What
Remember
do you think
when I
about
started
that?
and people laughed about
Yeah.
it, that there's someone somewhere seated thinking this is a very unconventional conversation.
Yes.
Why are these people having this conversation? What are your thoughts about that?
So first, I'd like to say that we cannot compare this era, with the way we were brought up.
Yes.
Number one, we are already in a digital era.
Oh,
What does
yeah.
that mean? Information is at the palm of our hands.
Yeah.
Children are exposed to explosion and misinformation.
Yeah.
Number two, the society is already hypersexualized. So when you tell me you don't want to speak to your child about sex, and when we walk outside, it's billboard of naked women.
There you go.
What are we saying?
There
Yeah.
you go.
The society is already
They
hypersexualized.
see it when they're walking.
The cartoons I've even not talked about movies. I'm talking about animation.
Yes.
It's sexualized.
And it's
Yes.
sickening. by the way.
Adverts are sexualized. Almost every part of the society is sexualized. We are bombarding the children with sexual content when they're not developmentally ready for those content.
Yes.
So if you're not having those conversations, they are picking what the world is saying to them, which may not be real. So they're picking the fakeness and the unreality from the world. So you as a parent, that is why having this conversation is helping that child. You're helping that child have, this is what we may see in the world, but this is what is real. So you're churning between the real and the fakeness that exists. Number two, I'd like to remind that parent, currently, as a country, we're having 13,000 pregnancies, teenage pregnancies every year.
Yes, I saw those stats yesterday.
Currently, the infection rates in the adolescent makes 51% of the HIV and the STI
Are
infections
you
in this country.
serious?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So when, as a parent, you're telling me that you don't want to have those
Adolescents.
conversations, yes. Just because you're not having them does not mean these things are not happening.
That's a very high number,
They are
guys.
happening. So we cannot say the way I was brought up is our dynamics are totally different. Now we
Some of
even
us
have,
didn't have TVs.
we have children who at 8 years have phones, and I know some parents will say, "No, me I'm safe because my child does not have a phone," but they go to school. That school,
I'm one of those parents.
they
And
have
they have
conversations.
friends.
Yes, even if my child does not have a phone, but when they come home and you listen to the conversations they're having, it means they're socializing outside the home.
The music they
You're not
listen to.
homeschooling those kids.
Yeah.
The music, they will even come and you are not listening to gengeton, but they
Yeah.
will sing for you gengeton
Yeah.
in the house.
That is my experience with my nephews
Because
and
they're
nieces.
listening to those
Yeah.
things outside.
Yeah.
So pretending that those things are not happening and not having those conversations is not helping your child, because the dynamics are now totally different.
Why do you think it's easier for society to pretend? Is it because we just don't want to put the work? What is it?
It's the same. It's the shame,
the shame
culture,
culture. Okay.
that we grew up in, and we're still carrying it as parents into this.
Okay.
But for me, I say I've done a lot of unlearning in adulthood, not just sex. As an adult, you learn a lot of things that you may have grown up knowing. So it's high time as adults we go back to the room and say, this is the reality of our world now. I'll walk outside, I'll see a billboard of a naked woman. I'll go to a mall, I'll see naked things.
You'll see people dressed inappropriately.
People will dress inappropriately. I cannot control what is outside my home. So what do? I need to have conversations with my child of what is real, what is not real, what is our values. For example, what is my value as Emily Ochieng in terms of nudity?
Yes.
That is a conversation I need to have with my child. Not say that nudity does not exist while it exists. Have conversation, for example, of people. 2 weeks ago, I was doing some training with some young adolescents, just twins. So I was asking them interesting questions. Why do you think your friends are having sex? It was interesting, the things we're saying. We see them on TV. We see them on the mobile phone. We also want to try out. our peers are doing this, all those interesting. So you as a parent, you're thinking, my kids are not having this. They're having those sex.
And I believe, but then let me tell you, Emily, and I believe I'm a strong believer of that whole aspect that if you don't teach your child,
the world
will teach. They will get information. It's either easy. You, and for a parent, I want every parent who is listening to, it's this. It's either you or the children will learn whether you teach them or not. So it is either you or the internet or the porn.
Spice.
To your values. So you can say this happens, but we believe this is not right because 1, 2, 3. As in, you, for example, you may say, even in terms of the relationship. So you may say, when I say you base on your value as you. So for some people,
what we believe in as a family.
As a family.
As a family or as an individual?
I'm going the consecutive way.
Okay.
Yes. So because I also don't want to be too radical so that Barbara's show is shut down.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
She's seen my eye.
I don't want a lawsuit tomorrow.
Yes.
So I'm going to answer it in a consecutive way. So this is the thing. You're pegging it on values. So you can say this is happening now in the world. But this is how we view it. You see, you're trying to give your child how you you see, you are asking me, is it an individual or family? Families should have values.
Yes.
So that you say you, and if it is two, you can say this is how we want to speak about certain things. This is how we want to view certain things. So you base it on this is because those conversations they're seeing even in movies now. It's
even
all
cartoons.
Over. Cartoons, it's all over. So this is happening.
And storybooks,
all those things. But this is how we view it as a family. So this is how we view it. And why do you view it that way? So you may be basing it on a biblical thing. You may be basing it on a general. But then there's a family that is so liberal that is okay for them.
So they can share their values and their stand on that. So they share their values
as a standards. But you're not condemning. We're not saying you're telling your child to go start abusing and condemning people
or pointing fingers or being violent about it.
But you're just speaking about difference in values here. Yes, so that is that part of the conversations. And I've taken a very conservative... I like
what you said, because you started by saying we need to learn to identify... We find out our children's sexuality and what they identify it. You started by saying that.
Yes.
And you said, teach your children according to your beliefs and values.
Yeah.
And then just to plug into what even Liam is asking or anyone else, I feel that is where, as a society, we go wrong. Some of us, maybe family X believes in this, family Y believes in this. Some people are okay with drinking in front of their children. Some are not. Some will do it into hiding. So I feel it is a personal decision or is a family decision based on your values. But when it comes to sex education, bottom line is you're saying, let's stop keeping quiet.
Yes.
Let's stop shunning away.
Let's have the conversations.
Let's have the conversation.
Families are different. People are different. There's diversity.
And I like how Emily is breaking this down, and she's saying some of these issues in terms of not issues, sorry, let me take that word back. Some of these sexual orientation that people choose, you get to understand your child from a young age if you began having this conversation early,
so that
as they grow up,
and identity
that identity expression, so that as they grow up, they're forming into their identity. You're supporting them, and they're able to face society.
Exactly.
I like that.
0719012600 is the number to call. Moses from Nakuru, I see you, and the rest are on the timeline. What are the socials saying? Moses is back. Let me just put him back again. Hello, Spice.
Hello, Dati.
What are your thoughts today, sir?
Yeah, Moses from Nakuru. Hello.
Yes, Moses, proceed. Emily is listening.
Yeah, actually, you people need a round of applause for the good work that you are doing there.
Asante sana, and we thank Emily for coming through.
Yeah, for real, that topic is of great importance in this era, unlike in the past. As in, nowadays, television are airing contents that we always watch with our kids, like the soaps that come on at 8 p.m. Mtoto hawezi taka kulala kama hajawochi hiyo kipindi, hadi mnaweza sumbuana bure. Naona ni za wazungu, hizo movement, the way they dress. Yani ile maneno wanaongea hapo, unaona mtoto ameshikanisha kila kitu. Sasa unaona venye wanakaa venye wamepiga luku nini, unaona sasa mtoto kuna vitu anaanza kujifunza hapo hivyo, wakikisiana hivi anawatch. Sasa ni vizuri at least venye Emily amesema hivyo, tuwafunze mapema wajue.
Sana.
Ende maoni yangu.
Thank you for that. Tuena.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for making time to call us. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. If you have a question for Emily or a question for us and you like to put it across, today is the day. Don't come here and asking the adults this sex education question and there's an expert here. Today you want to ask that. Hello, Spice.
Yes. Good evening, all of you.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Papa from Nakuru, Kenya, Nakuru City. Now, my question here is, I'm a father and I have both daughters and sons. So is it morally right for me to educate my daughter about sex? Does it make sense for me to educate, or it makes sense to talk about it with my boys? But now what about my daughter? And maybe the mother is too busy. She knows it's not there for her. What should I do now? Because I know maybe I'll tell the daughter, don't bring a child here. She'll have sex, but she will not bring a child. They'll use the contraceptive you're talking about. How do I go about it?
Papa, do you want to stay on the line or you will hang up?
Well, I can hang up.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much for that question. Emily?
I'll repeat what I'd say, Barbara, that sex education is not gendered. So the father is asking how he can have those conversations.
Yes.
So he can still have those conversations because he's speaking about general growth, development, all these things. So there are conversations that any parent can have with their child.
You see, that's a very big deal.
It's not about, by the issue is not about morality. There's nothing like you teaching your child and your male talking to your daughter is immoral.
I think it's how we were cultured.
We were told back to the shame culture that we were brought up in. That awkwardness and cocoon, it's because that was what we were taught up with.
Yes.
But it's a process of unlearning, and it's a process.
Okay. Yeah. I hope we've answered that particular question. I have a question that many of us never want to hear about it. We're in a stage, maybe you have teenagers and you have found that they're sexually active. Is it right to shame?
In fact,
and when I mean shame, when I mean shame, I know it's not good to castigate and do that, but as a parent who has found out that their child is sexually active, what do they need to do, or how can they unlearn that particular thought? Yesterday we were talking about disciplining, and I would see some of the comments. Some people are like, you know what, my child is sexually active, I still cannot get the hang of it. How can they move forward as a family, and can they still change that narrative and help that child have secondary virginity? Let me get you another question so that you can answer both of them. Hello, Joseph.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, thank you. What are your thoughts about?
Hello.
Hello, what's your thoughts about, or do you have a question for Emily?
I have a thought and also have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'll start with my thought. My thinking is, I think the conversation is very rich because, of course, our children are having this issue of sex. I have a boy who is around 10 years, and I'm starting to get jittery when I listen to what you ladies are saying. But then again, I have a concern.
Hello, go ahead. Yes, you have a concern?
Yes, I have a concern. I think I've been listening for the last 30 minutes or so, but I'm not listening. I'm not hearing any lady calling in and trying to also, contribute to this, because I think we leave our boys and girls with mothers at home. Sometimes we fathers are not there to talk to our children. So where are the ladies in this program? I would also want to hear them and also share their concerns. Maybe it will help us fathers to understand how better we can be able to take care of our children. Thank you.
Now, Emily.
Gocha, before Emily, I like Dutch's question and that gentleman's question. And my girlfriend 2 weeks ago was very stressed out because she found out her 16-year-old is having sex. And she does not know what to do. She's scared. She's upset. Her husband passed away, so she's raising her kids on her own, and she just doesn't. She's like, what do I do? And she's had conversations with the boy's father and mother, but she's feeling like I have no control over this child, and I don't know if they're saying they're using protected sex, they're lying or they're saying the truth. And her, she's coming from the angle of, Karigo, I'm not ready to be a grandmother.
Great questions. Now, I've also that parent is not alone. I've told you I'm a parent. I've also experienced that.
Yes.
So this is the thing.
Wow.
Sometimes,
Did you
especially
scream just out of curiosity?
Yeah, by the way,
screaming at
you
the reaction
scream,
is
yell.
Not to yourself, not to the child. I'm just like, how
to
do you
yourself.
Yeah.
I think it requires some kind of soberness.
I think BP tapanda kwanza.
You first you have to first come down as yourself.
Yes.
It's a conversation most parents don't want to have or don't wish to happen for their children. It's just trying to find your soberness angle first. This is my soberness angle. Then the next thing I'll speak about is sometimes I'll go back to the kind of relationship you have with your child. So are you close to that child enough to start having the conversations? Remember, at this stage, it's the stage where when the children reach teenage, they've already started independence. They want to, they listen more to the world than from their parents. They're trying to create their own independent structure.
Yeah.
So depending on how you bonded and the kind of relationship you had with this child, it will determine whether you're going to have an easier conversations or not. So if you see that, number one, your relationship has been kind of strange with this teen, I'd advise you
Which
get
happens, right?
an external person to do the conversations for you.
Okay.
And this is the thing, is because at this stage, they are listening more to that outside sense. Voice is making sense. You are more of an enemy. And especially if you never bonded from, as in bonding aikwa. You know, sometimes there's you find a situation where a parent is emotionally absent, so they've never really bonded with that child. There's no closeness. But if you have had a relationship, then you can maybe start by asking. The usual conversation is the why. So maybe this is happening. Why? So just don't from a judgment, just ask a general why. If you're so open, they may tell you maybe it was pressure, maybe I felt this, I had a crush, and I felt by me doing this, showing the crush, this, it means I love them, something. But only that will happen if you're close to them. If you're not close, they'll not speak. They'll do what? They'll shun. So when you get somebody who can then open up the conversations, then you can still go back to now the conversations of back to now the consequences. You've done this, you've made a mistake, people learn from mistakes, you've had sex, yes, but these consequences of sex are not going away, and you may not be able to handle. Number one, if you get pregnant, you're missing school, you're missing all these things. So you always emphasize on the consequence. You know, we only speak about an action. We say, don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
We leave the consequence part.
Yeah.
When you tell them, don't get, what is the consequence of having chlamydia? What is the consequence of having syphilis?
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Now, I have a teenage child, for example. Not that I have, but I'm imagining. And then you are suspecting, or you're not sure because of the crowd thing you have. Should I go in deep details and tell them, syphilis, you will get this, gonorrhea, as in I give it... Now, because you're talking about consequences.
Yes.
I even show them pictures. Is that
And
advisable?
You see,
because again, could that be instilling fear?
No, you're not talking about instilling fear, but you're talking about the point of having conversations.
Yeah.
So even you are suspecting this is happening, but you're having general conversations of, at this age, your body may push you, you may be having these feelings, and you may think this is a way of expressing love. Number one, how do people express love? How do people express love without having intercourse?
Yes.
And there are ways
Very
to express
important.
love.
So we need to give them options.
So you're having open conversation. You're not having a lecture, and you're starting it from that point that the teenagers having crushes, having this feeling is a normal part of reproduction, is a normal part of growth. But what we're talking about is managing those feelings and whatever they're feeling. So you're talking, and even you're demonstrating that when people tell you that love does not equate to intercourse. And this is the reason. 1, 2, 3. So you speak all these things, and then Barbara, now you bring in when people have sex when not in that right stage, this is what happens: pregnancy, STI. So you're not giving lectures.
Yeah,
you're looking for those moments, and it's not a one-off set of thing. You can talk about the cause pregnancy as a topic. You can bring STIs, and even you remember I talked about teachable moments. When now news is even bringing about those figures, you can even just speak about those figures that the news is speaking and your opinion about it.
Spice.